Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. And yeah, we have a great show planned for you today with here at Computer America. So our guest today, he is unfortunately running a bit late. That is to be expected with, well, hey, traffic and things of that nature. But we'll have him on in just a little bit. We're going to do computer and technology news. We have a couple stories that we really want to get to. And then partway into the program, into the first segment, we will get our guests on the line. And but in the meantime, everyone, welcome into the show. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. And today on the show, we have our cybersecurity expert, and that is Scott Schober. He is the author of Hacked Again. It's a great book about how he, kind of personally got compromised and decided to delve into what it was like in the mind of a hacker, why they do it, when they do it, how they do it. And yeah, you can of course pick that up wherever books are sold. But yeah, again, in the meantime, we'll have him on in just a bit. So until then, a couple things to mention, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything and anything having to do with the program, be that the show notes, link to our guest website, any articles, videos, demonstrations that we do here on the program. Everything can be found right there in one place. Also, be sure to check out the social media contest, which is running, still going on, of course, and we're giving away a prize, there we go, every single Friday. So check that out. And let's see, I think the last thing we'll talk about is the live video stream, where you can watch Computer America as well as listen to the program. We're still a radio show, just want to make that clear, but just another way to experience what it is that we do here. So, like I said, in the meantime, while we are waiting for our guests to battle the traffic, we will be doing computer and technology. And that is, of course, brought to you by Varitronics Security. So, here we go. Let's get started with that. All right, so I think our first story that we're going to do, and there were a couple important ones. Actually, let's do this one. So this is going to be a bit for you folks out there who really enjoy free software. And one of the main staples of free software, either in the Linux community or within, just people looking to get a very, very passable, extremely usable word processor, there's been only a few options. There's, of course, the one that you had to pay for, which was Microsoft Office. That's the one that many take after because it is the industry standard. And then you had LibreOffice, which we're talking about today, and then there was another one that I can't believe is slipping my mind, but it was discontinued. And but either way, LibreOffice was actually the kind of the alternative to Microsoft, and it's open source, it's free, it's great, and yeah, they just released their 6.0. So this is from LibreOffice themselves directly, talking about that the Document Foundation announces LibreOffice 6.0, a major release in a dramatically improved free Office suite, which celebrates the 7th anniversary of the availability of the very first version of LibreOffice. And today, LibreOffice is more powerful, simple, and secure, and offers superior interoperability with Microsoft Office documents. And that was the big thing, was that, you had these docs, you had .doc, and then you had .docx, and, a lot of people, it was about the time when Microsoft switched from their old format to their new format, and yeah, a lot of people couldn't handle half of the documents being created out there because they were of the newer system. And that's where LibreOffice really jumped in and saved the day, because then you could download this free program, open, manipulate, write with, work with this, this free software that then let you, kind of interchangeably work with Microsoft Office. It was great, and hey, looks like it's only getting better. So the article, the article goes on to say that the netbook bar, although still an experimental feature, has been enriched with 2 new variants, including the grouped bar full for Writer, Calc, and Impress, and tabbed compact for Writer. So that would be the toolbar up top. If you are familiar with it's called the ribbon system. They're improving on that. So a bit of a UI redesign, something that is very hard to do correctly. So we'll see how that works out. But they say that in Writer, a form menu has been added, making it easier to access one of the most powerful and often unknown features, which is the ability to design forms and create standard compliant PDF forms. And that the Find toolbar has been enhanced with a drop-down list of search types to speed up navigation. And there are some other ones in there for each one. They include simplicity. They have a new Wikipedia help system. So again, great that they do have some kind of help system in there, because this is free and it's open source. So it's not like they really have the infrastructure to handle the call support that someone like, let's say, Microsoft would be able to handle. So very cool. Again, interoperability. They have a LibreOffice viewer for Android, so if you need to open up documents on your phone, Android has you covered. LibreOffice Online, and yeah. So, anyways, so it's available. You can go download it. Again, it's absolutely free. Of course, if you find yourself really enjoying it and you want to throw them a couple bones, absolutely, they do take donations to keep doing what they're doing, keep doing what it is that they are doing. But yeah, just wanted to point out that they did have a new version of LibreOffice, and it's a big one. It's 6.0. So definitely worth something. Definitely worth taking a look at. All right, so there's one, and then this next story, it's a bit near and dear to my heart because I like hardware and I like it available. And, the last time I had to get components, I luckily did not have to get a graphics card. But apparently, if you have tried to get a higher end graphics card in the past couple of months or years, you're noticing a trend. And that trend is that, well, you're kind of competing with another segment of the population that before wasn't really there. And this is an article from The Verge. And yeah, it's one of those things that's unintended consequences, and it has big ramifications. And this article, again from The Verge, Tom Warren says that Bitcoin mania is hurting PC gamers by pushing up GPU prices. That's right. So Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Ripple, and Litecoin have soared in value over the past year. That's obvious. And thanks to continued interest from a range of investors, and of course, as the price of these cryptocurrencies has increased, graphics cards have also seen a big price increase thanks to retail stock shortages. And a mid-range or a range of mid and high-end graphics cards from AMD or Nvidia are in short supply, mostly due to cryptocurrency miners buying them in bulk to build machines to mine Bitcoin and similar cryptocurrencies. So here's the thing, and they have a couple numbers in here. We'll talk about them, but my understanding of cryptocurrency and graphics card relationship and how that works, you can't draw a direct line that says 6 months down the road, it will pay for itself. The price of cryptocurrency fluctuates far too much for that to point to one date. Say, hey, you're going to earn your money back after X amount of months. But ever since it has skyrocketed, it has gotten to a point that, as long as it's hovering around that 10,000, 15,000, and more, like the higher it goes up, the quicker you get your money back, but it's still at a point that within a year, guaranteed, within a year, if you buy, let's say, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070, a 1080, I don't know, some of AMD's RX 570, 580s, Vega 56, these higher end graphics cards, even though they cost $400, $500, $600, $700, cryptocurrency is at a point where crypto miners can, depending on the price of cryptocurrency and what they mine and how many they have, even when you factor in the price of electricity, they're earning their money back from every graphics card after about 6 months. So they see it as a medium short-term investment, where if you invest $400 to $700 now, 6 months down the line, you get that money back in cryptocurrency that you've already mined. And then if the graphics card lasts for another year and a half to 2 years, all that's gravy. It pays for itself and then some. And, it makes perfect sense why people are snapping up every available graphics card on the market. It's, again, just kind of one of those things that makes business sense. But if you're a gamer, if, the segment of the population that was originally super, super into these high performing graphics cards, well, you're now finding yourself having to compete with, cryptocurrency miners. So if you just wanted a high-end graphics card and you wanted to, finish building your computer so you can play games or you can do whatever it is that you're going to do, in some cases you have like these $700 cards that are selling for $1,000, and those are used. $1,000 used graphics card. New, they are either in limited or no supply. We're talking like worldwide here, not just in America or other places. I mean, these cryptocurrency miners, they're so they see it as such a business venture that they can pretty much guarantee if they get their hands on a $400 graphics card, they're going to make their money back and then some. So, it's not a question of, do I want this? It's, of course I want this. How do I get more? So, with that being said, NVIDIA is trying to fight back a little bit. They are trying to tell its retail partners to limit 2 graphics cards per customer to try to cut down on people, saying, hey, I need 40 of these GTX 1080s. NVIDIA is trying to look like the good guy here and tell its retail partners to only sell to people who want limited quantity. And hopefully that gets more graphics cards into more hands. But even if even if retailers wanted to, there are of course still ways around that, fake names, fake addresses, what have you. And then on top of that, retailers just really don't have that kind of incentive. If someone's banging down your door saying, hey, we'll buy every one of these that you have, NVIDIA can suggest all it wants. They can advise all they want. But, hey, they're still earning a profit. So it's, they said that Micro Center is specifically offering discounts to PC gamers who are buying the cards alongside other components. And they said that Micro Center blames high demand from miners and constrained shipments from vendors for the industry-wide shortages. So, hey, if you are thinking about building a mid to high-end PC, now is probably not the time. But here's the thing. If Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin crash and burn, and these cryptocurrency miners find themselves upside down, where if they find themselves upside down, they own all of these graphics cards and they just can't earn money from them, because like right now this makes perfect sense as long as cryptocurrency pricing is at a point where they earn their money back in 6 months. But if it crashes back down to $1,000, $500, $100, you're going to see the market flooded with people trying to recoup the cost and offering cheap used graphics cards. And I mean, as a gamer, that makes me happy because there's lots of parts and a lot of availability. But you have to wait and see if cryptocurrency kind of does that. Predicting the market is very, very hard. And if it does happen, we could see a huge influx of used graphics cards hit the market if cryptocurrency crashes. That's an unintended consequence of cryptocurrency. All right, so there's that. Man, it's crazy. All right, so there's that, and let's see. I think we have time for just one more before we're gonna get our guest Scott Schober on, and I think we should talk about this one. So it's usually a point of, a lot of pride when companies are valued at different price points. Who's worth the most as a brand? And for the longest time, that was Apple. Apple was, king of the castle. They were, valued incredibly high, and it looked like no one could dethrone them. Until, well, I think all of you know who I'm about to mention, but Amazon has recently overtaken Apple and Google to be named the world's most valuable brand. Those are two powerhouses that's very impressive to overtake. So, just barely edging out Apple, Amazon, amazing growth, and this coming from WorldTradeMarkReview.com, saying that Amazon brand value has exceeded $150 billion after a 42% year-on-year jump. And they say that tech brands claim all top five places. There we go, for first time in ranking history. So, companies such as China Construction Bank, Wells Fargo, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, BMW. I'm surprised there are not more oil companies there, but yeah, a lot of companies have been overshadowed by what Amazon has been doing. So there's a lot of numbers here, a lot of numbers that I really don't feel that you're all that interested in hearing, but just safe to say, Amazon, now the most valued company in the world, overtaking Apple with a brand value of over $150 billion. Right? Yes. Yeah. $150 billion. Apple has one of $146 billion, and the list goes down from there. But very impressive from Amazon, and honestly, I don't doubt it whatsoever. Amazon has been making a lot of moves. They've been innovating and trying to work themselves into new segments, and everything Amazon touches changes everything. Just like Apple used to do with technology, just like Google used to do with technology when they were really, really innovating. Super cool to see Amazon do it. So, and folks, I think with that though, and with that article done, I think we're going to try to get our guest on. So I'm going to have to leave you all with a little bit of music while we go ahead and try to get our guest on. So everyone just hang tight as we go ahead and do that. So pull up some things here. And again, I apologize for doing this on the air, but things are what they are, and we have to adapt as best we can. So here we go. Be right back with our guest, Scott Schober. Enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome back. Let's turn that off. There we go. If you actually recognize that, kudos for you and congratulations. But that break, that little hold, was well worth our time because joining us via phone and happy to have him on is our guest today, Mr. Scott Schober. He is our cybersecurity expert for us here at Computer America and the author of Hacked Again, President CEO of Berkeley Varitronics System. And Scott, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great to be back. How you been, Ben?
Not bad, not bad. Happy that you can make it, and
Yes.
and you know, I know that you offered very graciously to do the interview from while you were driving, but I felt as someone whose company takes so much pride in distracted driving, cutting down, I thought that wasn't wise. So, anyways, I'm happy that you're here, and we can just jump right
Excellent.
to our topics.
Sure.
So, I also sent you a few, but I think we'll start off with some of yours, and I think the first one, because I mentioned this yesterday, did not cover it, and I'm happy that you brought it up. If you wouldn't mind just jumping into ATM jackpotting, what that is, and why is that a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of a scary one when I think about it. And we're all familiar with ATMs. There's got to be, well over a million ATMs spread out throughout the United States alone. And what these hackers and thieves have identified is a interesting method to physically attack a ATM machine, and these are front-loading machines, certain versions of ATMs, but typically front-loading, which means that the front swings out. And what they're doing is actually taking an endoscope, which is similar to what we might see in a hospital when it goes inside of a person, so they could probe around and look for if a person's healthy or not and different things like that. They're drilling a hole physically into the ATM, sliding this scope in there carefully, and they're looking for a point where they could plug in a physical keyboard, and then they can actually communicate and type with the computer on board inside the ATM machine. And what they're simply doing is dispensing malware. And what they're calling this is jackpotting, because what they literally do will control and take over the ATM and allow it to spew out all the cash that's inside, just like you would get a jackpot in Las Vegas. And they're pulling tens of thousands of dollars out of ATM machines. And it's an interesting method because it's a combination of a physical tampering with the machine, but also a cyber hack. So it's a kind of a new approach to this. In the past, they would try to find ways to creatively put Bluetooth skimmers inside so that they could compromise credit cards or debit cards, especially in an ATM. In this case, they're just going right for the cash. And in the past, many ATMs were physically broken into, and there's a safe that houses the tens of thousands of dollars, and it's really, really hard to break that open. In this case, they don't even have to break it open physically. They just have to simply get access inside to the electronics, to the actual computer of it, and can compromise it that way. So it's kind of a creative method that they're using, but certainly scary because there's been numerous reports of machines that have been compromised spewing out this money.
Now, yeah, and a couple things here, of course. The first one being, do you think that this is any better than because I've seen many a YouTube video where someone jumps out of a truck, wraps a chain around an ATM, and
Yeah.
drives off with it bouncing down the road. That's a different kind of not so specialized physical hacking. But do you think that this is any more effective time-wise, or do you think this is any better than just picking up the dang thing and stealing it?
Yeah, I think in some ways this is, because these are well orchestrated attacks. In most of the cases, what's reported from the security cameras that haven't been covered up that could get some footage, there's kind of Team A goes in, and they will actually kind of start the process off, and they put a scout out to make sure nobody's coming by, do it at select times, usually these front-loading ATMs where there's not a lot of people walking by, and they could compromise it drill a hole in and prep everything, and then somebody else can come and actually then collect the cash and run. So it is orchestrated well. It's often tied to, in the first case, I guess, where they caught back in November, about mid-November, these were Venezuelan nationals, and they were initially pulled over and caught because of drug possession. Ultimately, they found out that they were tied to a much larger hacking scam, and it's really targeting specific machines. So the bad guys are out there looking for which particular machines that they could easily compromise, and it started out with real old ones. It was called Diebold. Nixdorf was the one large ATM manufacturer that was noted there, but now they're talking about up to 40 different types of ATMs and various software as this malware has now expanded to not just one specific machine. So it could really affect many ATMs if they're trying to target them now.
Yeah, so and you're right. I was just reading the article where they were found with with backpacks full of money in the car. Obviously, once you get that much cash, there's only so many ways that you can handle it. This is not later in the show. We're going to be discussing what happened with NEM in Japan, and that was digital currency, much easier to to steal. But this is still worrying because of its kind of simplicity. And if let's say we had every bank in the country listening to us speak right now, what would be the best way to deter this? Is this posting a guard at every ATM 24/7? Is this armor plating your ATMs even further? What is the best deterrent to something that seems kind of, again, kind of brute force?
Well, I think in this case, there's a couple safeguards that immediately go off in my mind. Is the ATM tied to a bank needs to make sure, number one, that they do have security cameras and multiple security cameras. Not all ATMs have adequate security camera coverage, adequate lighting, and are placed in a spot that's very obvious for people to see if something like this was happening. Now, the other thing is people need to be aware. In this particular case, the bad guys that actually drilled into the machine and dispensed all the cash, they fooled people because they actually dressed in uniform, so it looked like they were servicemen performing maintenance, loading the machine or testing it out or something like that. So people need to be aware of that, and especially bank and security personnel. If anything looks suspicious, they could move in quickly. Also, it's good to contact the ATM manufacturers, be it Diebold or NCR is a huge one, to make sure that they have the latest software and security patches on there that can prevent this malware from actually being effective. And it's like anything else. We talk all the time about the importance of updating our computers, our mobile devices with the latest security patches, the latest OS. Well, guess what? There's a computer in an ATM, and there's software in an ATM, and there are vulnerabilities that do get discovered, and they're patched. They're much safer, and they're usually vetted and tested very carefully. Obviously not well enough when we see how many of these machines are now being targeted. And I should note, this is really this is just starting to appear in the U.S. This has happened in other countries in the past. It's never happened on U.S. soil. Now the fear is they're going to start targeting more and more ATMs here within the United States, and that's a huge concern for the financial industry and banks.
Right. I mean, if it works once, it could probably work again. And I think your point about updated software, I mean, that works for consumers, businesses alike. The problem, though, I've heard, and it's kind of like the problem we saw with the National Health Services over in Europe, where I think banking, maybe even so than healthcare, they're on legacy software. I'm sure you know this more than most, that a lot of their system runs on either very specialized, unique software or Windows 95 or really outdated software. So when we come back, we're about to head into a break, but when we come back, I want you one more opinion from about, is software and banking really up to snuff, or is this an example of that? And then we have many more news stories. So everyone, Scott Schober, author of Hacked Again. We'll be right back. More Computer America right after this. Everyone, stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And just like that, welcome back to the Computer America Show. We are 31 minutes the hour as we continue on. Oh, and by the way, before we get back to guest, I do want to give another shout out, and you'll be hearing much more from them here very, very soon. And that is our newest sponsor. Welcome them on the show, OWC, Other World Computing. They do a lot of great work with high-end and prosumer, and now they're starting to work on consumer hard drives and other Apple Mac-related stuff. But, of course, many of it works with Windows as well. So check them out, and you'll see more here at Computer America from OWC. So, but welcome back onto the show, our cybersecurity expert, and of course, Berkeley Varitronics, Hacked Again, and Mr. Scott Schober. Thank you for coming back on with us. So, yeah, and right before the break, anyone out there just listening, we were talking about ATM jackpotting. Essentially, it's a way to get all of the money out of ATMs. You know, that's a great trick. And yeah, Scott, I kind of wanted you to speak to the fact that, you know, again, just like the healthcare system, banks probably more so. I've heard that a lot of infrastructure, either worldwide or in America or wherever, their software was designed and implemented and constructed in the 70s. And it really hasn't been updated since. Like, do you think that's a huge factor in what we're seeing, like software security-wise with banks?
Yeah, I do think absolutely. And it's obviously not true of all banks and
Right.
all ATM machines, but oftentimes the sheer number of them is so great to update them all is extremely expensive and it's extremely time consuming. So it happens sometimes, and as you mentioned, some of these things are legacy systems that may be a decade or more old, and by the time they get around to them, it takes so long, but it does have to be done. And if we talked about many different breaches in the past, when we looked at many breaches such as a Home Depot or many others where there's a credit card breach at the point of sale, it's often just because of that old legacy software that has not been updated yet. We'll get around to it eventually, and when things get put off, guess what? The hackers will move in and exploit those vulnerabilities just as they do here. They look at these ATM machines and they say, wow, jackpot. I don't have to go into a bank with a physical gun and risk getting shot or risk shooting somebody else and trying to blow up a safe or anything else. Instead, I can just manipulate the machine with malware and getting into the machine without even having to physically breaking open locks and causing harm. It's a low-risk, smarter way for them to steal, if you could call it that.
Yeah, but it probably wouldn't make very good for Hollywood. So don't expect this
No.
anytime soon for movies. But this actually does take us into another topic that you have here. Definitely wanted to touch on as well. And you mentioned it, Bluetooth skimmers. Are they still a thing? And for everyone out there watching the video portion, we're going to throw up some pictures that you sent over. But I would assume that your immediate response is yes, Bluetooth skimmers are still a thing.
Yeah, they definitely are. In fact, a few of the pictures that I sent you were actually from last week. I was actually out in the field and looking actively for Bluetooth skimmers, learning about it and discussing the problem with law enforcement, with national weights and measures, and then certainly they're looking for technology, which we've focused on and developed, which is our Blue Sleuth, which is a direction-finding system that can engage with Bluetooth activity, and skimmers are typically coupled with a Bluetooth module. They can now be put into a gas pump or an ATM, and sometimes it's a matter of 15 to 30 seconds that the bad guys can carefully put this in and plug it in, close the machine, and take off. And then what they're doing in the background is collecting hundreds of credit cards. I was informed that the average Bluetooth skimmer over its life will steal more than $110,000 in stolen credit cards. That's
Crazy.
what they can equate each skimmer to. And some gas stations, they found there's 12 pumps, there are 12 skimmers installed. So if you start doing the math, you realize how much fraud is actually taking place at the gas station. And there's a few, telltale signs that we really want to be careful with. You do want to look, if you notice any gas station, the one that's usually in the center closest to the attendant is the least likely to have a Bluetooth skimmer put in it. It's usually the pumps at the extremities, especially off of major highways where people are traveling from state to state. They'll target those because they get high volume of credit card. People will, unsuspectingly go to the outer pumps, and there's less cameras on them. They can put the skimmers in there, and then the bad guys will usually come by once a day and pull off several hundred stolen credit cards that are transmitted through this Bluetooth link. And it's a very powerful, orchestrated crime. The other thing that I found fascinating that I recently learned is the fact that these Bluetooth skimmers are being put inside of the pumps. It is a crime, it's a federal crime, but it doesn't fall under the same rules and regulations as if somebody hacked into a company. If somebody hacked into my company and my customer or vendor data has been compromised, the law requires me to notify my customers what was compromised, what happened, what the extent is, what I can do to help them, be it credit monitoring, this and that. And guess what? In the world of Bluetooth skimmers, when a gas station is compromised and those credit cards are stolen, they're not obligated to report that back to the individuals that were compromised. In fact, it kind of goes almost unknown to most people, and you don't even realize where your card was compromised. That, to me, is very scary. So the laws have to change. There has to be better inspection of every pump and an upgrade across the board on security. Many people wonder, well, how are they stealing credit cards? We've got newer cards. They're chip and pin. But in reality, the law allows the petroleum industry and the gas pumps in particular that they do not have to be upgraded with chip and pin technology. So every time you pull up to the pump, it is still a old school 20-year-old technology putting our cards in, and it's mag stripe only. The liability shift from the credit card companies does not change down to the station owners until 2020. Therefore, we've got a few more years of credit card fraud at the gas pumps, which is extremely concerning. Pay
Right.
cash; it's much safer.
Pay cash. That is great advice because you can hack cash, and it makes perfect sense. And it definitely bugs me to an extent because you were mentioning that they don't have an obligation to report. But if you sign up for one of their rewards programs, or if you do something of the nature, depending on your driving habits and how much gas you buy and things like that, they'll send you emails, they'll send you newsletters, they'll find a way to get in touch with you. But it irks me that if something that you should really know about, which is being potentially compromised, yeah, they can't get that information to you, or they don't have an obligation to do that to you. Like, it's so easy to get in touch with, I think, consumers nowadays. Being a company that does business and has reward systems like that, and at the same time they feel no obligation to do that. It irks me, but it's good to hear that hey, in a couple of years they're going to be forced to upgrade. So maybe we'll hear less of that. Just to be clear, again, if you're watching the video portion, we're looking at your pictures. You're using your Bluetooth scanner device. Very stylish, by the way. But you're pointing at this, and obviously, they find it. And we're looking at the back of a machine. I've personally never looked at the back of one of these gas pump points of service. But I mean, would this card skimmer that you found here, would this have been caught if someone had shaken, the part where you slide your car into, or was this inside the car slot? Like, how, how would an ordinary person who didn't have your scanner or didn't have access to the back of this machine, could they have found out this was being skimmed?
No, and you make a beautiful point. Nobody's going to open up a machine and look inside it because nobody has access to it typically. We just pull up, we want to get our gas, and we go. And it has nothing to do with a physical removal of the bezel where our credit card goes in at all. It's actually the key is literally turned and the machine is unlocked. There are 6 keys and a universal lock mechanism for all the gas pumps throughout the United States. When I first heard it, I said, "You got to be kidding me." It's a fact. Why? Because there's so many different people's that hands, be it the attendant, the station owner, somebody to check from a weights and measurement standpoint, so on and so forth, in and out of that pump to make sure things are working properly. So the industry is standardized on these 6 keys, and you can buy these keys on eBay, unfortunately. Not that we want to educate any hackers or bad guys, but it's easy to get for $10 to $15, and you can go up to a machine, open it up, and once you know the innards, and you can see some of them are a rat's nest, you simply plug into the connector on top of where the credit card goes in, and then there's a ribbon cable that has a skimmer connected to a Bluetooth module that just sits in that mess of wires. Even opening it up, just looking with your eye, it takes a trained eye to follow the wiring to know where the Bluetooth skimmer is placed. Hence the importance of having a simple tool that will actually allow you to point at the pump before you even open it and see if there's signal strength that's actually transmitting out of there. And what we do that's really important is we have a direction-finding antenna, and we pair to the module that's inside of the machine. You technically could look on your phone, scan with a Bluetooth app, and what you're going to see is a whole bunch of hexadecimal numbers and probably have no idea what you're looking at. That's the big problem because Bluetooth is everywhere. Any station that I went to and did a scan, I typically would see 6 to 10 active Bluetooth things in the area. What we've done is put some smarts in the known threats that are out there in the wild that have been discovered in the pumps. Our algorithm will actually see those and will flash a red little arrow on the screen there so you know right away, hey, this is highly suspect that there's a Bluetooth skimmer in the pump of this make and model. You click on that, and now it only talks to that module and allows you to quickly direction find on it, ignoring all the other Bluetooth activity, which there is a lot of, everything from our smartwatches and headphones and our cars and radios, you name it.
And, and to an untrained eye, I'm taking a complete guess, again, looking at the picture of, inside of the machine. I'm betting the thing that doesn't look like it's been soaked in gas for 15 years is probably the skimmer. The newer gray looking thing. So,
yes.
All right. So there you have it. And again, you said that you don't feel like educating our next generation of criminals, but here's the thing is that if someone were really interested in this, it's just a Google search away. It's, the information is already out there. And I think by spreading it to more people, it's kind of the approach that many cybersecurity experts take when it comes to hacking and the like, that hiding the information and never telling anyone is probably not as secure as telling everyone and making sure that there's a fix available for it. So yeah.
Good point. It causes public outcry a little bit, which then gets the attention of media and certainly security personnel that actually can make a difference and upgrade the pumps, upgrade the locks, do more searches, take proactive stances so that it actually protects the consumers. Right now, there's very little that protect consumers, and there's literally thousands of these Bluetooth skimmers being pulled out of pumps. It's hard enough just to keep up with it because there's so many pumps each year. So it's just a matter of time and using technology to combat that. To me, is a nice way to take back control and protect people.
No, and if nothing else, it shows it. Now that I think we have a good understanding of how it works. Maybe your suggestion of paying with cash, it really does show just how simple and unavoidable it would be to be compromised at a pump. So,
absolutely.
There you go. And all right, so we're gonna wrap up that one. So ATM, gas pumps, things like that, they are, of course, very interesting, I think, to a lot of people because we use them. let's move on to another piece of consumer technology that had a big uproar. And I personally, we didn't cover this on Computer America. I thought that I saw it in so many other places that people get their news, kind of as a laughing point, that I felt, this was a mess up by the U.S. military, less so than a uh, mess up by Strava or other fitness apps or things like that. So, what I'm referring to, of course, is the fact that uh, someone released a heat map of all of the different positions that a fitness app was sending back to their systems, and it was a very interesting heat map. It showed a lot of activity around cities and things like that. But in the world view, it showed U.S. military locations that were otherwise undisclosed, but on this heat map, shown like Christmas lights in an otherwise dark area. Really caught the attention. And so I'll leave it to you, Scott. But what do you think about this? Who messed up, and what was really compromised?
Yeah, well, I do think that number one, clearly, um, Strava did mess up by just putting this out there on the public without carefully looking at how much information they're putting out there or what the potential this could potentially be used for putting it in the wrong hands of somebody. In this case, perhaps it was done innocently. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they thought very much ahead of time, because it does reveal a lot, as you mentioned there. And what in particular in the world of the military, to disclose where people in a particular force might be and a base might be, and even more specifically their daily patterns, their daily activities, that could really be compromising if used the wrong way. Maybe it's somebody riding a bike, and every day they go out at 8 a.m. and do a couple laps around this particular area or base. And we're not necessarily talking a base within the U.S. Some of these bases are in Afghanistan and Iraq and other countries where they're disconnected from the United States, and they could easily be sitting ducks if bad guys were to target them with a missile attack or anything else. So it could be construed as basically giving away plans to the enemy, how to attack and how to win a battle or take over a military compound.
Well,
And I think if you look at it, the extreme, that's the big fear that I think that the government is stepping in and saying, hey, we want answers, and we want answers now.
right. And a couple of things. The first of all being that this really, you bring up other countries because, like I said, they show up like bright lights in an otherwise dark
Mm-hmm.
area. If you look at, let's say, a heat map, and I'm sure that Strava was probably looking at either Europe or America or other places where their system was really being used. You look at the United States, and that heat map was nigh unusable because of how much it covered. It covered almost every street, every road,
Mm-hmm.
every building in a major
Right.
city. It just wasn't that interesting uh, there. But I think it was like a young 20-something-year-old was like, "Hey, what's this over here?" And he really brought it to everyone's attention that, oh yeah, if you're watching the video portion, we have the picture you sent up. Yeah, floor plans of military bases. So as
Whoops.
yeah, exactly, and as I understand it, one thing that the U.S. military does is that they do actually ban in certain parts of military bases. They actually do ban uh, consumer electronics that do track. Let's say like in the Pentagon, they'll make you put your phone and any other Bluetooth or information transmitting device into special bags that jam all
Mm-hmm.
signals, and you're not allowed to use consumer electronics there. Um, I don't know if this was like lax and they're like, oh, we don't care. Someone's tracking their footsteps. Who cares? Or if this was an oversight altogether. But I mean, do you think this really shows how much data we're giving up, not just as consumers, but just as a society, that we can track this much information? And this is just Strava. I'm sure a lot of people may not have ever heard of Strava. Think
Mm-hmm.
about Google, think about Amazon, and all these other companies. Do you think we're giving out too much data, to companies?
Yeah, I definitely believe in this case, I think they've identified over 13 trillion geolocation points that were part of this larger mapping that was put out there. So anybody that uses this popular fitness app, or again, as you mentioned, others, what's important for them to realize is when you sign up for it, read the terms, what you're agreeing to, and set your privacy levels accordingly. Unfortunately, that was the response when they were questioned. Well, people should set their privacy, but the whole point of the app is that it's a social fitness app. So you're sharing things with other people that are like-minded, that enjoy fitness, and including your location, and you could even correlate that back to pictures, names. There's other things that were easily associated to the routes and people if somebody wanted to target them. So that was really a big concern. The fact that Strava didn't really try to secure any of that information, but instead they really made it public information, posting it on the internet for everyone and anyone to see. I think their response to it was very concerning. Now, obviously, U.S. military upped it. They want a full review. They're demanding answers. And now they're working with them, trying to work out the privacy going forward so this doesn't happen again. But it also then calls into question, as you mentioned, how about wearables? Are they accepted or not? Because up to this point, the military actually had discount programs encouraging people to buy fitness trackers and do these type of things to stay healthy.
Right.
So it's kind of a conflict of interest a little bit. Now they're talking about maybe we should ban them completely. There already is a talk, and now they're pushing forth rules in the White House. So no phones, no fitness trackers, no Bluetooth-enabled devices can come in. Same thing, too, in the headlines today, as you mentioned, the Pentagon. Is it safe to have mobile phones there? Because people typically have an issued phone through the U.S. government, but people bring in their own personal devices also and tie that into the network, which can introduce all kinds of other problems. So huge, huge concern, and that's a big area. We develop tools such as our wall hound, which actually sniffs for cell phones. It's a deterrent to keep cell phones from coming into secure military facilities such as the Pentagon or DoD SCIF, where they house classified information. And we look for threats like Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and we give an audible alert and a flashing sign to deter people and let them know, hey, you can't bring wireless devices beyond this point.
Yeah, no, and products such as yours, and it's just going to be more and more relevant as really the Internet of Things. I know we've been saying that for a while now. It's here, but not to the extent that tech companies, kind of foresee the future, where just this year there were demonstrations how you walk into a home, a mock-up of a home, and the device sitting on the coffee table that talks to you is the least of your concerns, because it's your lights, it's appliances, doorbell, it's your security system. Everything is connected to the internet, and yeah, it's not slowing down. It's going full speed ahead. So
Yeah,
you're going to be busy.
definitely.
I think so. So, all right. So there's that one. We're going to move on from the Strava Fitness app. Again, I do think that releasing that information was a little short-sighted. Personally, I think that they didn't think that anyone would really use it for any kind of purposes other than looking at, again, America, Europe, what have you, and being, oh, wow, that's bright and shiny. That's interesting. It was probably an innocent, but at the same time, alarming kind of picture. So that's Strava. If you wouldn't mind, I think this topic might actually carry us over to the end of the show, but we covered a bit about the NEM coin Heist. And this was a coin that is primarily traded in Japan. It's very popular over there. It has a lot of traction in that ecosystem, but it recently was hacked, and we see the fallout from it. We covered it again a bit on the show, but I didn't really get a sense of what truly happened and how it happened. So if you could shine some more light on, again, what the NEM coin is in terms of cryptocurrency, and what happened with, how did they lose $600 million?
Yeah, this one is, and again, I'm not sure how much you did cover or didn't, so I don't want to
Right, go ahead.
repeat too much. But in any event, this one, if you compare it to the largest, this is the largest. I think the closest was Mt. Gox, which I believe we talked about in the past, which was a couple hundred million. This one was in excess of 530 million that was actually stolen. And I guess during the investigation here, what they're trying to do is find out what in the world actually happened, and they're blaming it on the fault of the NEM blockchain is what they believed is the weak point there that was actually compromised. It's not 100% clear on all of the things, but this just happened, and I think since then even they have reported, the exchange said they're going to be giving back some of the money or part of the money, maybe half of the money. It's really all up in the air right now, but in essence, a lot of this is the method of how the money is actually stored, cryptocurrency in a sense, which I think is the bigger message that all of us take from this is we really need to be careful. How do we store, if we have Bitcoins or if we have any other cryptocurrency? This was certainly a large one, and I forget where it ranks in the top 10 somewhere, but it's certainly well known and it's used. And how is it stored? And there's two kind of common methods we all associate. If we go to the bank, we take out money, we put it into our wallet, or we put it into a purse. With Bitcoin, it's important we have to store it, keep it somewhere, because there's private keys that are stored, a big long number that will associate to the actual cryptocurrency, and it's put into either a hot wallet or it's put into a cold wallet. And that's important to make sure that you're actually storing it. And really what the difference is what's connected to the internet. Hot wallets are connected to the internet, and in this case it's believed that it was a hot wallet, is internet connected, whereas cold wallet is separated. Just I liken it often to backups. When we back up our data, it could be a hard drive that's plugged in or something plugged in and stays on the internet and backs up so often. And we always recommend backup and disconnect from the internet. Same thing here. You want to be able to have something disconnected or a cold wallet so you're not tied into that. Why? Because that's a conduit that hackers are going to use to find those vulnerabilities and move in and steal that cryptocurrency and take off. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's not like physical cash where you could easily find it. That's a huge challenge for these investigators.
Yeah, I always found it sad. Admittedly, I don't like things stolen from people, but I always found it sad but funny that the way that cryptocurrency works, again, depending on the particular currency, but in a lot of cases like Bitcoin, you can see money sitting in a wallet. As long as you have the address, you can look at the contents. And so, that's why you say that Satoshi Nakamoto, whatever his wallet, you can see so much Bitcoin, but you see it's not being traded, it's not being sold or sent to another wallet. Same case here. You can see where this currency was sent to, and you can see it sitting there or being transferred from wallet to wallet to wallet, but you can't get it back. You can't say, oh, just undo, Control Z. That's not how that works at all. So very interesting that they say it was a problem with the blockchain, because that's a problem. Looking at the value of the coin, like so many coins out there over the past couple of weeks, it's devalued quite a bit. But I'm sure that you know better than most, Scott, that when it comes to cryptocurrency like this, I mean, having a fundamental flaw that affects the value of your coin forever, right? Like, it's not just like this, because they said that they reimbursed everyone who lost money with their own funds, but we're still seeing their price drop. And you think that's expected, right?
That's definitely expected there. I think the fact that they quickly responded and say that they're going to be reimbursing people and so people can kind of cut their losses, that kept it somewhat stable, even though there was a dip. In fact, it kept all cryptocurrency somewhat stable. The whole market could implode easily if and I should say when, in my opinion, there's a large enough hacker heist, because there's no traceability on it.
And Scott, I hate to cut you off. We're about to end up here. We're about to end here,
Oh, sure.
but no, and you're absolutely right. We saw that with Mt. Gox when that happened. Cryptocurrency crumbled because they said it was unsecure. But in the meantime, Scott Schober, cybersecurity expert, glad that he made it. And if you want to find out more, you can visit him at hackedagain.com. We have a link in the show notes. Check it out there. Scott, until next time, thank you so much, and have a good one.
Great. You too. Thanks for having me on.
All right, our pleasure. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, everyone. So we are just about done here on Computer America as well. Feel free to tune in tomorrow on the program as we have on Bebop Sensors. There you go. So Bebop Sensors are going to be on talking with us about, obviously, their sensors. Everyone, bye-bye.